Yo, so if you're a fan of Rise of the Golden Idol or an aspiring video game composer, I'm hoping this video will be interesting and a little bit of a look into what goes on to make music for a video game. My name's Paul. I wrote all the music for Rise of the Golden Idol, the base game, and 2 of the DLCs. And today I'd like to share a little bit about some of the influences for this track, how it came about, some of my favorite instruments, and maybe a little bit about how it was made. If you want to be a game composer, there's kind of a lot of different things you have to kind of pull together. You got to wear a lot of hats. So hopefully this series will be interesting for game composers and for people who are just fans of the game. So let's check it out. So here is the session. I work in Pro Tools. I'll probably get more into that in other videos. So in my previous video, which is probably a bit long, I talked about how I submitted drafts for the menu. Well, this track right here, Speildancer, or Speildancer is the name of the track. The scenario is Speildance. This was one of the drafts that was not selected because they only need one menu. I sent them 3 options. They picked Bloom. Well, this was kind of an idea, one of the ideas I had for the menu. And, the game is set in the 70s, so I kind of was going for a kind of a 70s-ish TV theme because I knew the TV would be a big part of the game. So it was cool that they liked this track for other scenarios. And in fact, I completely repurposed it and made more of a full song out of it for a different scenario, Academic Impact. So there are actually 2 versions of some of this melody here. So something that's going on, I'll just play, you just heard the beginning, but maybe I'll play a bit more of it and point out that there's a little bit of bussing going on to make it sound a little smaller and a little further away. Chiefly, got this EQ right here. It's really cutting so much of the music out. So here's this. Cool. So this EQ is really hacking up that kind of piano song with electric bass and flute. And that's part of how I made it small. I made it a little bit distorted here with this, added some harmonic saturation. And then it has a reverb on it. Kind of put it further away. Do some interesting bussing to allow some of the low end. I didn't want to kill all the low end, so some of there's this auxiliary called TV low end, and that lets some of the timpani and the concert drums come through, so it feels a little fuller, but still kind of small. I didn't want it to be a huge sounding thing because in the scene you just see this little TV off in the corner. So that's what's going on with that. And a really key, other than writing it on piano, a key instrument was bass guitar. And I play bass on so many tracks. It's my main instrument. I feel like I can usually just pick it up and play something. So that's why it's a very often a choice. But I really tried to make it feel kind of 70s. And an interesting thing is what I've discovered working with different developers is that a lot of times they have an idiom or a genre in mind, a scenario, a time period that they're looking for. A lot of times they don't really want it to sound like that time period. I found that this developer wanted 70s touches, but didn't really want it to sound too 70s. But that was something I discovered after submitting various drafts for things, that they were picking the ones that were a little bit more modern sounding. So that's something to bear in mind, is a lot of times they don't really want it to sound too period. They just want it to have some of the color of the period. And that's not the case with maybe every developer, but bear that in mind. You don't have to get exactly in a period sometimes. You just need to make the player feel like they're being taken back to a different time. Another key instrument, and I'll talk about this next section. This is probably the more interesting section, even though my heart really goes out to this beginning here. I think the thing that players liked was the dance, the sort of Lemurian touch here. And that's a Moog Subphatty monophonic synth. I didn't have to use an outboard synthesizer, but excuse me, I have one, and I really like messing with real synthesizers, and it's just monophonic. So yeah, that's the part, and I didn't write too much more. It was kind of cool. It sounded really good looping. So Moog Subphatty. Now, I'll say that another instrument probably that's kind of key, is adding a lot of feeling, is this Arturia CS80 Carillon. I don't know how you actually should pronounce that. Looks Spanish or French or something. But this instrument, this preset, that's not atonal, but its tonality is very arbitrary. Like, it's kind of out. So that's a part of this section here, this preset, and it feels almost microtonal, but it's not really. I mean, it's just out of tune. So here in this section. Turn it up. That was a pretty important instrument, I feel like. Kind of transport you. So the last video I probably went on and on about modes and the idea of modal mixture. This doesn't have, there's modal mixture in the beginning, but just chords that sound cool. They're not always in the key. That's how simple it really is. So I'm trying to talk about the mode here. If I can find an instrument. Here we go. Now this session has got a lot of delay compensation, so it might feel a bit sluggish. This song is built around modes of harmonic minor. So when we get to this sort of Lemurian groove, if you imagine the key of A minor, harmonic minor doesn't have a G natural, it has a G sharp. Right? So keeping all those notes, remember when I was talking about modes, we talked about tonicizing a different sort of home. Well, this is kind of built around E. Yet, it's still the same notes as a harmonic minor. So it's a mode of harmonic minor. And harmonic minor and melodic minor modes are a bit more complex than the normal modes. They definitely sound more exotic. They work really well over altered chords. But this is basically, it's just, if you were going to stay all white notes, E to E is just Phrygian. The flat 2, like a minor scale with a flat 2. But because we're using harmonic minor, it has a flat 2 plus a major third. Normally, in Phrygian, you have a minor third. Yet this is a major third with the flat 2. Right? Flat 2, major third. So that's kind of an interesting feeling. And then it moves down to D. And that's very Dorian. If it was all white notes, it would just be a regular Dorian scale. With that major 6th interval. It's like a minor scale with a major 6th. Except for now, we also have a sharp 4. So that's Dorian sharp 4. So we're using Phrygian with a major third and Dorian with a sharp 4. And that's all the same exact notes as a harmonic minor. So that's what we're getting here in this section. D Dorian, sharp 4. E Phrygian, major third. Now you don't hear the major third in this little riff. It comes in later in the flute part. So hopefully that was a good little picture of, hey, here's a harmonic minor scale. This is so laggy, so hard to play. But tonicize, that's built off the 5th scale degree of A harmonic minor, and then off the 4th scale degree A harmonic minor. And we're not letting the listener feel A minor. We're making them feel E Phrygian and D Dorian. That's what we're emphasizing. So that's how you make a mode work, is you lock them in. You know, if I were to suddenly start playing A minor, it would kind of kill the work that you're doing to transport them away from A minor and using modes of A minor, if that makes any sense. So that's what's going on. And this track was a lot of fun to make, and hopefully you'll find this interesting. Thank you.